Welcome again to informative channel The History of Muslim-Israeli Conflict, a journey through time and 2024. The conflict between Muslims and Israel is complex, rooted in ancient history, religion, and modern geopolitics. Over time, this tension has resulted in wars, uprisings, and negotiations. In 2024, we see new developments that keep this conflict in the global spotlight. Today, we explore why animosity exists from the past to the present.
Jerusalem, a sacred city for Muslims. For Muslims, Jerusalem holds profound religious significance. The city is home to Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. It's from here that Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, ascended to the heavens during the night journey, Isra and Miraj. The Islamic rule over Jerusalem dates back to 637 AD, when Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, R.A., peacefully took control. The city has remained a key focal point for Muslim identity. The rise of Zionism and early Muslim resistance. In the late 19th century, Jewish nationalists began the Zionist movement, seeking to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine. At the time, the region was mostly inhabited by Muslims and Christians. The arrival of Jewish immigrants, supported by Western powers, sparked tensions that would later lead to violence. As the Jewish population grew, so did the friction between the Arabs and the new settlers. The creation of Israel and the Nakba, 1948. In 1948, the creation of Israel was declared, leading to the displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians, a tragedy known as the Nakba, or the catastrophe. Muslim-majority countries, including Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, launched a war against Israel in solidarity with Palestinians. Despite their efforts, Israel emerged victorious and expanded its borders. This event left a deep scar on the Muslim world, sparking feelings of betrayal, anger, and a strong sense of injustice. Muslim nations viewed Israel as a Western creation at the expense of Palestinian Muslims, fueling a decades-long struggle.
The 1967 Six-Day War and the occupation of Jerusalem. In 1967, tensions culminated in the Six-Day War, where Israel fought against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. In less than a week, Israel had captured vast territories, including the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, and East Jerusalem. The capture of Jerusalem, particularly the Al-Aqsa Mosque, was a devastating blow to Muslims worldwide. The continued Israeli control over these lands, including religious sites sacred to Muslims, became a core issue in the ongoing conflict. For many Muslims, the occupation was not just political but an existential and religious crisis. The struggle for Palestinian statehood. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict intensified with the rise of nationalist movements. Palestinians have long sought the creation of their own state, and the lack of resolution has fueled decades of violence. The 1987 First Intifada, uprising, was a grassroots movement against Israeli occupation, leading to further militarization and a clampdown by Israel. A second Intifada erupted in 2000 after failed peace negotiations. By 2024, the situation in Gaza and the West Bank remains volatile, with tensions frequently boiling over into violent confrontations.
Hamas, Hezbollah, and resistance movements. Groups like Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon emerged as key players in resisting Israeli occupation. Hamas, an Islamic militant group, governs Gaza and regularly engages in military confrontations with Israel. For these groups, the fight against Israel is framed as a religious duty and a battle against oppression. Hamas and Hezbollah have been involved in numerous conflicts, with 2024 seeing renewed clashes, particularly in Gaza. Rocket fire from Gaza into Israel and retaliatory Israeli airstrikes have become a deadly cycle, with civilian populations on both sides suffering immensely. The religious dimension. For many Muslims, the conflict is not only about land but also religious and spiritual identity. The Quran speaks of justice and the duty to protect the oppressed, and many Muslims see their support for Palestinians as part of fulfilling this religious obligation. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, now under Israeli control, is a symbol of this struggle.
Some Muslims view the situation as part of an eschatological narrative, where the eventual liberation of Jerusalem will precede the end of times. This religious fervor heightens emotions and makes compromise difficult. The 2024 developments. In 2024, The conflict has seen new escalations. Israel's controversial settlement expansion into the West Bank continues to provoke international outrage, particularly from Muslim-majority countries. Despite efforts by global organizations like the United Nations, there has been no lasting solution.
The Al-Aqsa Mosque compound has once again become a flashpoint, with violent confrontations between Israeli forces and Palestinian worshippers during religious festivals. Tensions boiled over in the spring of 2024 when Israeli police entered the mosque during Ramadan prayers, sparking condemnation from across the Muslim world.
In Gaza, protests and riots erupted as a result, leading to a renewed exchange of rocket fire between Hamas and Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, carried out a series of airstrikes on Hamas targets, killing both militants and civilians. The humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, with little hope for immediate peace. International reactions across the Muslim world, protests have erupted in solidarity with Palestinians. Nations like Iran, Turkey, and Pakistan have expressed strong opposition to Israel's actions. Iranian officials, in particular, have called for the Muslim world to unite against Israel, framing the conflict as an Islamic duty to defend Palestinian rights. In Turkey, mass protests have taken place, with President Erdogan calling Israel's actions a violation of human dignity. These protests highlight the deep-rooted emotional and religious connection Muslims have to the Palestinian cause, even in 2024.
Attempts at peace and the future outlook. While diplomatic efforts continue, the prospects for peace remain uncertain. The 2020 Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and some Arab countries, offered a glimmer of hope, but many Muslims feel that these agreements sidelined the Palestinian cause.
In 2024, the world watches as Israel and Hamas engage in periodic confrontations, and the situation in the West Bank grows ever more desperate. For many Muslims, the struggle is not just political but a matter of protecting their religious heritage and the future of Palestine. Conclusion: the conflict between Muslims and Israel is rooted in history, religion, and geopolitics. As we have seen in 2024, the emotions tied to this conflict remain strong, and finding a peaceful solution is a challenge that requires both sides to recognize the other's deep grievances. Only through justice and mutual understanding can peace be achieved in this troubled land.